Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this Securiton International webinar entitled Advanced Fire Protection for Data Centers. My name is Justin McNamara. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me in a moment. Before we get into the details, I've just got a quick request to make sure that you've turned off your microphones and your cameras. It just keeps the bandwidth low and helps the webinar move a bit more smoothly. I will not spend any time talking about my agenda slide. You can see here we've split this into a few different sections. I'll explain each one as we go. You will of course be able to get a copy of this webinar. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel once we've completed, so by all means do take notes, but there's not necessarily a need. A little bit about me. I am Justin McNamara. I'm based in the United Kingdom. I am the marketing director for the UK and Ireland within Securiton International. Delighted to have been here working for Securiton for over 2 years now, but I've got 34 years experience within the fire industry. And I like to think that I'm still only 38, but as you can see from that picture, I'm a little bit older. The good side to that is that I've got plenty of experience, total of 26 years now in aspirating smoke detection, but broad experience in all sorts of other fire smoke detection technologies, including some time focused on the dangers and protection for lithium-ion batteries, which we will touch on later in this presentation. And generally I've got fairly broad experience across well, certainly across EMEA, but maybe beyond that too. And if you need to reach out to me in particular, you can find me on LinkedIn. My email address, my Securiton email address is also on the screen now. And even if I'm not, directly responsible for you or your territory, I can, contact me and I will put you in touch with the relevant colleague. So, moving into the meat, if you like, of the presentation, I'm going to start with a general introduction, just so you have some idea of what we're going to be covering. My first slide is not really meant for reading. It is really to make sure you all think about how experienced we are, Securiton internationally, as a team in the data center market. We have an extensive list of global projects where we've been involved, probably from design, coordination, supply, and maybe even in some cases commissioning assistance as well. So we got vast experience in this space, and I hope you will get a flavour of that throughout this presentation. The reason that fire detection, protection in data centres, it seems to me fairly obvious, and it's becoming increasingly important. You may well be aware of a lot of these statistics, and I'm just going to pick out one or two. But given that our reliance these days on data centers is just so important, I think almost none of us can do anything, either personally or professionally, without some connection with a data center. For example, this webinar wouldn't be able to take place without a data center or data centers operating across the world at this moment in time. And it's a sad fact that as a proportion of sort of non-IT causes of downtime in data centers, 21% of those of that downtime, total downtime, is caused by fire incidents. And the cost is, the cost is huge. And I suspect that may be an underestimation, but we're reliably informed that it's over $5,500 for every single minute of downtime for a data center, which can quickly add up given that the average recovery time from a fire incident is at least over a 24-hour period. And there are sadly many examples of data center fires over the years, and I think with the increase of them, they are appearing almost everywhere. Doesn't matter whichever country you're in, there will be a plan or plans for multiple new data centers. The imminent age of AI is taking care of that. There will be multiple data centers for us to be aware of, and hopefully provide really advanced, clever smoke detection. And if I think about a data center from a kind of overall holistic general sense, there are multiple points in that data center where detection is going to be critical. And it's not just the central processing area, perhaps where the data computer racks are themselves, and many of us will be used to suggesting, supplying, installing, commissioning, aspirating smoke detectors, and that will probably be the focus really of this entire presentation. But we shouldn't forget I call them ancillary areas, but I don't want to do them down by using the word ancillary areas. But in a typical data center, we'll also find power distribution rooms, again, where aspirating would be a very good solution. We'll also have staff rooms. No matter how clever the data center is, it will have some personnel on site, and typically we'd need just ordinary, in quotes, point type detection to provide the detection there. Many data centers obviously have not just suspended ceilings, but they've got raised floors, slightly difficult, inaccessible areas. So again, aspirating is perfect. There is also likely to be some battery rooms, and increasingly they'll be using lithium-ion batteries as opposed to lead acid. So there are solutions that we will discuss that include not just aspirating detection, but also specific gas detection that we are able to provide, off-gas detection for the chemicals that are released when a lithium-ion battery, as opposed to a lead acid battery, a lithium-ion battery begins to fail. And then last but by no means least, I'm working my way around this chart in an anti-clockwise direction. There's control rooms. That is the hub or the brains of the data center. Obviously, we provide detection within that space, but also we need to provide some central monitoring. And with Securifier fire detection system, we're able to provide connections through Modbus, for example, and interface into building management systems. So you get real good control of what's happening within a data center. What I'm going to do is look at some of those challenges in a bit more detail and put some product solution to the potential problem. If I think about a typical data center, I'm thinking primarily about server rooms. There'll be either very large rooms with multiple rows of servers, or potentially they're smaller segregated rooms, again with multiple server racks, but smaller rooms. Either way, it doesn't matter. What we need to do is provide really good early detection of those server rooms. There's obviously lots of very expensive and complicated equipment, lots of wiring, potentially lots of heat. The servers do generate an enormous amount of heat. That could be problematic. The wiring could be problematic. In essence, it doesn't really matter what the problem may be. We need to make sure that we've got good, reliable, early detection, potentially directly within those racks themselves. And we have a solution using our aspirating smoke detection, our ASD, using something called the REK system that will provide individual server or cabinet detection. And it definitely is something that should be considered every time we're looking at a server room. Obviously, in most, I would say all server rooms, there will be forced air handling, potentially large room air circulation units. They'll have big return air grills where the air from the server room itself is drawn or pulled back across that rack. And it's a very good opportunity at that point or space within a server room to provide early detection. The air is being actively pulled away from the servers, probably cleaned at that point and then recirculated cooler than the warm air as it entered. But at that point, at that return air grill, that is a very good point to provide very early, very sensitive smoke detection. It's one of the unique features really of ASD, aspirating smoke detection, that we're able to provide detection in potentially very high airflow environments at that return air grill. So that is a key point for detection within a server room. Equally, and I mentioned it briefly, we have both the suspended ceilings, and we'll look at raised floors briefly in a moment. I think historically, and maybe again I'm showing my age, a lot of point detectors might have gone in suspended ceilings, certainly in raised floors. But the big downside, and there are several, but the big downside to putting point detectors in either a suspended ceiling or a raised floor is access to provide maintenance post-commissioning once the data center is operational. And it's very tricky, difficult, sometimes dangerous, often disruptive if we need to get access to provide maintenance to point detectors either in a ceiling void or in a raised floor. So the sensible, smart thing to do is to suggest ASD aspirating again. And we can design a system with multiple different levels of detection, so we can get staged alarms, and we can do the maintenance from the actual ASD box. We don't need to either get into the ceiling void, suspended ceiling itself, or indeed to start lifting up floor tiles and get access to the raised floor. It's a really good solution for the void areas, ceiling or floor, within any solution, but particularly within a data center where just the access is so disruptive, if it's even possible, quite frankly. I talked about this quite briefly, and I will talk about the products a bit later on, but increasingly, as I mentioned, data centers are switching from traditional lead acid batteries in their battery rooms to lithium-ion batteries. They are lighter, they charge faster, and the cost of them has come down and down over the recent years. So they, that no longer is a barrier to using them. So increasingly lithium-ion batteries, but this is increasingly common and well known. It is potentially an issue. Lithium-ion batteries inherently pose a risk because of thermal runaway. And normal detection systems, whether that be normal smoke detection systems or even normal gas detection systems, are not the best solution if there is a failure of lithium-ion batteries. If a battery fails, whether it's from mechanical damage, temperature damage, or electrical damage, it will start to emit, give off off gases, volatile organic compounds, which typically, can be very, very difficult and tricky to detect. However, we have a solution. Securiton has partnered with a company called ImpraSensing that has developed a range of VOC, that's volatile organic compound sensors, as well as flammable gas detection to detect any H2 that is given off when there is a battery failure. We do recommend strongly the addition of at least aspirating smoke detection to provide a further enhanced level of smoke detection. But the key thing within these lithium-ion battery areas is to ensure that we have the right detection technology, and ImpraSensing with its VOC sensors and flammable sensors is definitely the right solution. There are a couple of other areas, in particular power generation, where very good sensible detection solutions are often overlooked. So in a power generation area, some of the challenges will revolve around the fact that we've got very hot machinery, potentially a high fuel load, there may be oils or lubricants in the environment, and some detection solutions will not help. We have a solution that do please contact us. We can provide you a lot more information, but the ADW that works by measuring the pressure and translating that into a temperature reading enables us to provide really good, reliable detection in these very challenging areas where, potentially, there might be a bit of smoke as normal as part of the operation. And what we really want is to be able to just define that there's been a real problem rather than some intermittent issue. So do please contact us for more information on ADW, but I think you'll find it's a unique solution where other forms of detection just clearly are not appropriate and do not work. If areas are perhaps a little bit cleaner, then it's highly probable that aspirating might be the right solution. But we have the experience and the staff to be able to help you decide what the right solution is. In almost my last couple of sections here, just talking about the different areas in a data center, just briefly on staff rooms, as I mentioned, there'll always be a room where the on-site personnel can gather. We need to make sure we've got a good, in quotes, normal detection system. We have you'll see in a later slide, a range of smoke detectors and a very high level, clever fire panel, FACP, that's able to control the entire system. So that can control all of the devices that I've mentioned thus far, the aspirating detectors, the ADW, etc. And then last but by no means least, there is the control room, which would be the brains of the operation. If I choose to use Securiton's entire range of detection products, I can have a Securify panel. I can connect that to alarm management system. I can have visualization of all the devices that we've just discussed, and I can connect that through to a BMS or whatever control system is being used on site. So we are able to provide all of the devices that are required and monitoring software to properly protect a data center, or indeed any application, but specifically data centers in this application. I'm going to talk a little bit about the products themselves, and I'm going to mention suppression. We at Securiton, we don't actually manufacture any suppression systems, but we do partner with suppression companies across the globe, reliable, well-known companies that we're used to working with, so we can make sure that we provide the right solutions that can integrate well into a suppression system and give you or your clients the absolute best solution to provide the best level of detection and suppression. If I look at it a little bit in the round here, I've got a Securifier panel in the sort of bottom right hand corner of the graphic, but you can see I have a connected loop there with all the other devices, whether that be ordinary smoke detectors, whether that be call points, sounders, aspirating detectors, the ADW that I mentioned earlier, but also you can see that by putting addressable interface on the loop, I can connect my infrasensing gas detection, and the system is very, very powerful. If you're not familiar with the Securifier protocol, do please contact us. But we have a system that is capable of up to 16 addressable loops, up to 3.5 kilometers loop length, up to 250 devices on a loop. I'm going to talk in a second about extinguishing control, but it really is a truly, truly powerful system that can control and help and monitor and provide visualization for all Securiton devices. So as far as extinguishers are concerned, just to stress again, we don't actually manufacture extinguishing systems, but we have what is independently acknowledged to be best in class extinguishing control. We have a EN 12094 2003 certified panel. We can have up to 8 extinguishing zones for each panel, and practically limitless network. And for those who are really into their programming, cause and effect, etc., we can create up to 768 Boolean functions. Personally, I'm not the expert on that topic, but I know several people within our organization who are, and we'd be more than glad and happy to help. And you can see here also there's a couple of graphic pictures of how we organize and run our logic gates and functions. We have Securifier Studio programming software that enables us to design, create, and tailor the cause and effect to provide the absolute best solution that meets the requirements of your project. And it, you know, as I mentioned right at the start, we are very, very experienced in this space, so we have the people, the right knowledge to be able to provide you a really good solution. And I mention this again, but it's worth stressing. We're practically unlimited networking, so it doesn't really matter how big or indeed small the data center project is. We can cope with a huge, great network, potentially up to 4,000 panels, and we can control all that back at one central control room monitoring system, management system. It's a very, very powerful solution. I'm going to talk about the product portfolio and then the kind of extra, often unforgotten or forgotten services that we provide. We do pride ourselves on not just having the best products and a really extensive product portfolio, but we absolutely pride ourselves on the services that we provide around those products. Let me start with products themselves, and I partly apologize for repeating myself, but these are key points. We have 3 ways to kind of visualize and manage incidents should they occur within the data center. We've got a very robust and clever alarm management system, UMS. We can actually visualize and operate the aspiration detectors, for example, through something called FetusNet, which is an absolutely fantastic visual and control connection system for all aspiration detectors. It's absolutely fantastic. And then we also can interface to building management systems via Modbus TCP/IP. So you've got up to 3 ways to control and manage your systems. I'm going to talk about the aspirating products. I'm delighted to say that as of this year, we actually now have two ranges of aspirating systems. Many of you will be familiar with the ASD 5.3 range, and there's some examples of those products on the screen at the moment with their differing capabilities. We have reading from left to right, we have systems that are capable of doing very small areas, perhaps individual items of equipment, through to larger units that are able to cover greater areas, and indeed in some cases provide detection within harsh environments. But this year we also have a second range, the ASD 2000 range that we launched at the very beginning of this year. Both ranges are running alongside each other and will do for many, many years. But it may be that the ASD 2000 range, that currently comprises 3 different aspirating detectors, is more appropriate for your data center. It goes without saying that, contact us, myself or one of my colleagues, and we will help you decide what's going to be the most appropriate, based on a whole variety of things. It may be sensitivity. It may be that the sensitivity, for example, of the ASD 2000 range, which is a little bit lower, is more appropriate. It may be that there are some networking requirements. We might have to look at other options. Let us help you decide which of these 2 fantastic ranges of aspirating detectors is most appropriate for your data center. And then a tiny little bit more on the ADW product that I mentioned, that is the differential pressure sensing detection system, looking at temperature changes via the pressure changes. Absolutely great solution for very problematic areas, anywhere where normal detection might have struggled a bit or indeed failed. We also, and I didn't mention it earlier, we also have a linear heat detection system. In fact, we have 2 types of that. Nominally they're called D-List or List, some very sophisticated linear heat systems that may actually form part of the data center detection design solution. So we have that covered too. And then getting towards the end of the product section here, a bit more detail on the Securifier panel. I'm showing here the 3000 panel, the smoke detection devices, combined smoke and heat, and then we have a CO detector, and we also have sounders, loop switches, and obviously call points. So we have a total fire detection portfolio. And another recent addition to what we can offer is the infrasensing gas sensors. We have the VOC H2 sensor. We have the general VOC gas sensor. 2 different things. It depends what the risk is. We would need to have a look at a particular battery room design to ensure you get the the absolute best layout and design for protection. It's a fantastic solution. We've got lots of collateral to prove our competence in this area. Lots of testing data to prove that this is the right technology in a battery room in combination with our ASD. Moving on to service provision, and I think sometimes this is a part of the industry that gets overlooked a little bit. It is, you know, a good thing that people can supply very good, reliable, approved, tested product, but we need to back it up. We need to back it up with a number of things. One that often gets overlooked is application support. So we have a team that creates design guides to provide detailed information on how an application works, what the problems, pitfalls are, and what the solutions are. So we go into the detail to help you and your clients decide exactly the types of detection that are needed, and we share them freely with people who are interested. Again, you can contact me or my colleagues, but the link is there mentioned on the site, or I think that QR code is scannable, perhaps not with that picture of the eye in the center, but contact us. And whether it's data centers or another application, we can provide you with not just design guides, but case studies, all sorts of information that back up what we say and prove that you're going to get the best solution possible. We also have design teams, in fact, plural these days, so we can support your project right from the start. We can, you know, if you provide us, for example, with CAD designs, layouts for a data center, we can populate that with a suggested design for aspirant detection, smoke detection, gas detection. We can provide a full package of design. We can also provide the calculations that are often necessary to back that up. We want to help. We want to make sure that you get the absolute best design for not just for yourself, but for your client, and make sure that that data center keeps operating, and that we don't suffer any downtime. That's the end of the formal part of the presentation. I'm gonna just do a couple of summary items. It is worth, and particularly as we're talking about data centers, it is worth it in this modern world to follow us on your favored social media channel. We're very active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Whether you want to follow one or two or all three, please do so. It's a very good way of keeping in contact with you and keeping you updated as to what we're doing, any developments in product and support terms. So do follow us on one or all of those. So my summary here, it's kind of universally acknowledged. There is no doubt that data centers present real smoke detection challenges. It is not a normal environment, whether it's because of the heat load from the servers or the airflow, forced ventilation, and I could go on. Data centers are challenging, but solutions exist, and they exist in many forms. Securison, we're very lucky to have all of the detection solutions, whether that's via Securifier and our range of panels, whether it's our aspirating smoke detection and the two ranges there, the 5.3 and the 2000, ADW, pressure sensing detection system, whether it's linear heat with the Listec, whether it's gas sensing, VOC sensing via infrasensing. We have the right detection solutions, and they're complementary to suppression systems. We last time I'm going to say it, we're not in the suppression business, but we partner with people who definitely are. And if you want more information, you're slightly unsure, it is really worth having a look at the design guide, the application library, and certainly getting us involved with an actual design. We have been there before. We've done it. We can take the load off you as far as actually doing a design and layout, provide us with the basic information, and we can take the design from there. If we're not already, we'd really like to be your partner in data centers. Sadly today, and we will take questions in some other form, but due to time and technology, we're not able to take any live questions on the call today. But do please contact us, not just with questions, but for any further information that's required. And hopefully we'll get to speak soon. Thank you for your attention, and have a safe rest of the day wherever you are. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.